maybe watch this on here as opposed to on Zoom.
It looks like we're live.
All right, cool.
Hello, Facebook. Hello, everybody. We are back with Leah and Annette, who is a parent for Beyond School, and Carrie Heinemann, who is sliding in the back door. I see her right now coming. They're both parents of Beyond School kids and also some adult stuff too. I think they've both done things in the adult space with Beyond School, which is one of the things that we want to talk a little bit about today, is that the family style learning that's possible, that learning is happening everywhere, but it's also happening always. You know, it's not just for grade school kids or high school kids. One of the best things we can do for our children is model lifelong learning. And that's one of the things at Beyond School that we're really passionate about. So today our agenda is we're going to talk with Carrie, we're going to talk with Annette about what's working for their families, what their struggles were and why they ended up with Beyond School. And then Leah, I almost said Lucy because that's what it says in the corner of your screen. I totally know you're not Lucy, Leah. Is going to give us a backstage pass kind of tour where she's going to show us what it's like in the platform once you're in, on both the adult side and on the kid side. So if you've been kind of unclear about what's going on, this should clear you up and you should be able to see what this is like to learn with and on at Beyond School. So Leah, do you want to do a short introduction of yourself just in case someone doesn't know you, and then we'll just keep going?
Yep, I'm Leah Jovi Ford, not Lucy Power as it says in the bottom of my screen. We're using her account. And I am the COO of Beyond School. I have 4 children of my own, 2 of my own and 2 bonus kids. And I have always homeschooled mine, and we now homeschool all 4 of them together. I think that's all I probably need to say today.
Nice. Carrie, how about you?
I am Carrie Heinemann. I am a mom of 4. I have a PhD in nutrition, and I have 4 kids, like I said, who were in public school, who have now been remote learning for a year next week. And so that's our juggle.
I definitely want you to talk more about that in a few minutes, because your kids are still in remote school and you do have a juggly story to share. Annette, how about you?
I'm Annette Rexroad, and I have a PhD in epidemiology, as well as I grew a specialty food company that I sold in 9 years. And I've been homeschooling my 3 boys for 13 years. The oldest now is in college and planning a gap year. But I have a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old, and my 12-year-old and I both have been using Beyond School since, gosh, the summer or before, I don't know. Yeah.
Early. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, your guy is in, right now he's in art, right?
Yep, and he did the first art class, he's in his second art class, and he did anti-racism with Sharon, and then he's now doing, where we picked up the Middle Ages learning block. So he's... Oh, good. Yeah. I can't wait to hear what he thinks of that. He's all about King Arthur and, anything Middle Ages. He loves Merlin and all that. And so any of the history for Middle Ages, he's psyched about. Now he's into Vikings. So you have a whole set on that. Oh, the Vikings, good. Yeah. The other one in the Middle Ages that's brand new, like 2 days ago, is the Arab Golden Age, which people totally forget and overlook for the Middle Ages. They focus on Europe, all of the Central European countries and knights and castles, and they think that was the Middle Ages. Well, there was actually a lot more going on, and kind of more interesting to me, I think, is what was happening in the Arabian Peninsula and all of the massive, they talk about the Middle Ages being the Dark Ages. And the joke I made today to my daughter was that, at the time when in Europe, people were still looking at the stars through a paper tube, in the Arabian Peninsula, they were full-fledged astronomers and they were naming stars. And it's just so much cool stuff there to learn. But anyway, that's a sidetrack. Cool. So I would love to hear from both of you sort of, why Beyond School has been a solution for you. And Carrie, I'm going to pick on you first, because I think the story that you have to tell, like we met, gosh, almost a year ago. Was it June, July, when everything was falling apart? And so for backstory, Carrie lives in California, simultaneously one of the best on paper school districts, best funded, certainly school districts in the country, and also worst responses to the pandemic. So can you talk a little bit about that and what your experience has been and why you chose to keep your kids in school through this whole year?
Yeah, so I live in California. My husband and I started out in Sacramento, and we moved to the Bay Area because of jobs, but also because we wanted better schools. And we started out in a lesser school district and then even made a second move to go to a school district to provide our kids with the best public school education that we could have. That's what both of us participated in growing up. That's what we knew and were comfortable with. And we knew education was a priority for our family. And so we wanted to make the best possible decisions for our 3 kids at the time, and then soon to be 4 kids. And so moved here and chose this school district. We'd heard great things about it. And we've been really happy up until that point. My daughter went all the way through elementary school and into middle school. We had a great experience. My 2 older boys had been in elementary school. And then of course, COVID hit, and literally our whole world was turned upside down. And we have amazing teachers at our school, and they bonded together and they provided the best education they could up until the summer, but it was totally different for them as well too, right? Like everybody literally was learning on the fly. So enter summer, and all of a sudden in June, I had this epiphany that I needed to come up with a plan, because I was really worried that my family, having 4 kids of different ages spanning, you know, middle school to elementary school, girls, boys, etc. Like we have a lot of unique challenges, right? So I was worried that the school district would make decisions that would maybe not be in the best interest of my family. And I wanted to have a little bit more control about what ultimately happened. So I found you, Jen. I looked you up, and thank goodness we chatted, and you really empowered me to help teach my kids and to navigate through the process. So we started working with you, and honestly, like I jumped on it. I was all about Beyond School, and starting in July, we started doing your curriculum, even though we weren't supposed to start until August. And we have been doing Beyond School ever since. And honestly, like, I feel like I have become such a better parent for my kids. I have helped parent them through this, and I have been empowered to educate them alongside with their teachers in the public school. We've toyed with the idea about fully homeschooling, but especially for my oldest, who has only known public school, the shift at this point is just terrifying to her, right? And she has so many other things happening in her life right now that it doesn't really seem fair to pull her out of those few things that she still has, those connections to teachers and to friends and things. So we've kind of been doing our own quote unquote hybrid now for 9 months. And the beauty of the story is a couple of weeks ago, I had a well child checkup for my oldest child. And at the end of it, I ended up talking to the pediatrician the next day to schedule an appointment for one of my other millions of kids, as Lucy likes to say. And the office shared with me that the pediatrician was actually leaving, and I was going to switch to another pediatrician, but I said, you know, is there any chance I could just follow up with her and see if she recommends somebody? So she ended up calling me later in the day, and we actually had a great chat, and she told me that she was actually leaving the practice and she didn't want to be a pediatrician anymore because she'd seen so many kids in the last year that she couldn't help, and she just felt like it was maybe not the profession that she wanted to stay into. So she was kind of looking at other avenues, was going to take a 6-month to a year leave and figure out what she wanted to do. And she said, I need you to know that you are one of the few families that I've seen with kids who are doing okay in spite of all that's going on. And that just kind of left me with a feeling like, you know, I'm not special. I know all of us moms love our kids and are all trying to do the best that we can. But I really feel like Beyond School has been that missing piece for me that has helped kind of guide me through the process, because this was so different from what I've ever done with my kids. I'm always learning with them all the time, but I really needed to kind of shift my thinking about the day and how to enhance their learning and how to kind of encourage them to find their own way and help them through the process. So it really has been life-changing for our family.
That gives me goosebumps, because the thing, we talked and we've talked for years, but at the beginning of this, Leah and I were talking about it's not just about replacing whatever the curriculum gap is for kids. It's about helping parents make that mindset shift to this idea of self-direction, that learning is happening everywhere and you can trust your children to learn. And even, what I love about your story is it's not either or, right? A lot of people this year have felt like, oh, we have to homeschool or we have to do this, but there's no blend. And the reality, I think, for most families is somewhere in the middle. And you can use all of these tools and shift the way you think about it and still participate in all the best parts of school too. So thank you for that. And I love the hilarious things that you send that your kids are up to. Like, your posts of them making their Viking shields and doing the funny things, or Benny with his arms full of lettuce in the morning are the best.
We keep life exciting around here.
Yeah, totally. And that you have a really different experience because you didn't pull your kids out of school. I mean, I'm sure the pandemic was disruptive for you guys, but not in the same way. And you're already quite committed to self-direction.
Right. Yeah, and for us, it was interesting because in the early days when everybody was in lockdown, the first 3 months, our lives really didn't change much because, except being able to socialize with, friends and other families. But, the day-to-day routine really didn't change much. However, right. I will say, though, that it just the stress, that underlying stress of the pandemic has absolutely affected my boys, especially my 2 older teens, because, that's just a time of life when you're really social and this and that. And so their lack of the motivation levels have gone down over the course of this, past year. And so trying to find some other way to kind of spice up our homeschooling, efforts and learning. And we've never been textbook people, we've always been very, eclectic, and we travel a lot, and just kind of doing a lot of, just them. We've really tried to make them be self-directed, teach them that through the years. And they still trying to wrap their head around that they don't have to follow a school curriculum because we've never done school, but most of their friends are in school. And I think the interesting thing is that a lot of their friends are doing this hybrid model here. I'm in Vermont, and what their friends are saying is oh my God, I have no motivation. Nobody's telling me what to do or how to do this. And they don't have the self-directed learning skills, which is, and these are high school kids, and so that's, to me, kind of an alarming thing versus, and my boys will say oh, welcome to the world of homeschooling, because my mom requires us to okay, here, we go over, okay, let's try to get this much done this week and that kind of stuff. But, they're really it's their responsibility to do it. And I'm not going to be micromanaging them, but now all of their friends are recognizing how much they depend on their teachers to be on them, with their assignments and things like that. And just also the kids have a lot more free time because the hybrid model is for the high school here is, 2 days in school and 3 days out, and that's a lot of time to be left to your own devices to, to get stuff done. And so, and then for Levi, my 12-year-old, he, we were using a homeschooling, a distance learning curriculum, and, again, a lot of busy work, I've never found a curriculum that I like because it's just, there's so much busy work. And so with the Beyond School stuff, it was also Levi's first time to actually be on a live online class. And so he was a little nervous, about that. So he's been doing art with Hannah now for this is his second semester, and his art is actually getting better. He's not very artistic, but anyway, but he actually is enjoying all the varieties of methods that she's teaching and things. And he's really proud of it, which is exactly that's awesome, so that's been working great. And he loves her and, and the other kids. And so he's so much more comfortable now. He just gets on himself and he gets all his materials out. And so that's totally different than when we started. And then I did the anti-racism adult boot camp with Sharon, and I signed him up for the child's anti-racism class. And that was really out of his comfort zone. He was like, what are you saying? And we teach a lot of anti-racism at home, and we're all doing our own work as a family, but to be in a class with other people that he doesn't know and be discussing these things was really out of his comfort zone. But he did awesome and he loved it. And she really made him think about things, again, Vermont's very white, and so he's not exposed to a lot of diversity. And so it was really good because the exercises that she had them do and also the content that she had them review really made him think about putting himself in somebody else's shoes, and so that was really, and even just like the way he talks now, or will like pause and just, make sure that, he's not saying something that's offensive, type of thing, is great. It's great, so that was awesome. And like I said, now we're doing the new platform that you have now, and, picking up with, I was like, which history do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do for world history? And so he's like, yeah, let's do this one. And, it's great. It's like, I love that there's the, the online piece, but then there's a project where you're offline, where you're not the whole thing is online. Because I know some parents don't want their kids just to be in front of a screen all day. So, and then there's, if you're a writer, or if you would rather videotape something or do, or build something, that you have those options. So for kids that are different types of learners, that then they have an option to be able to do that. And then you provide other resources. So it's nice because it gives them the autonomy to be able to say, we're not following history in like, beginning of history to the end of history. Some people prefer to do that, but again, it's like the way that we've always lived our lives, and what seems to work in our family is, I don't know, something just comes in front of us, and then that's a topic, we go down a rabbit hole, and then something else happens. Like right now it's Women's History Month, so we're watching tons of documentaries on women in history, and then that brings us to the next thing, and that, and then we're into World War II because you have something on women in World War II, and so then we'll dive into, so it's kind of just things naturally flow, and it's great because you're providing this platform with content that doesn't need to be in a sequential order if you don't choose to do it that way. So that's been our experience so far, and it's been fun.
I'm so glad to hear that. And the thing that is great to hear from you is that your kids are a little bit older. Some people are looking at this and they're like, oh, that's great for sort of up through 5th grade. But the reality is that we're trying to encourage people to learn together. So every one of our learning blocks is built for a 5-year-old and also a 14-year-old. Like we have high school kids using these blocks, and they just sort of skip over the octonauts and they go on to the National Geographic pieces, right? Like there are things for everyone in them. Leah, you're awfully quiet. Do you have anything you want to add? Because you've also got more kids than sense. That was my joke. That's what I said about myself. I'm not saying you don't have sense, but I always said 4 kids was more kids than sense.
I also have 4 kids. Well, it's scratching my own itch. So, I've homeschooled my 2 kids from the beginning. My 2 bonus kids have flexi school, but we now homeschool them all together. And I'm much more on the kind of not totally unschooling, but just, let the kids follow their interests and let them choose what they want to learn. And I have one who is very self-directed and very creative and does his own thing, and another who needs quite a lot more encouragement. But they've been doing what they've done. They've done Spanish. They're currently doing Spanish with Carlos. The eldest 2 are doing creative writing. They're doing music with Tayar, and so those are the kind of some of the live stuff that we're still doing at the moment, but they're just diving into the blocks. We looked at one of the guitar ones the other day. They're just kind of, we let them choose, and they dive into a block and pick the bits that they're interested in and then come away. And the little ones particularly really like the hands-on stuff. So some of the things which we're going to have a quick look at.
That's important, and because Annette was saying a lot of the curriculum for homeschool or for online school, and I know that this has been true of a lot of what the public schools put out, is it's busy work, and it's all in one learning style. It's worksheet, writing, worksheet, which is fantastic if you happen to be a visual verbal learner, which is like less than 1/3 of the population, and way less than 1/3 of population of kids. When you think about how all little children are kinesthetic learners, there have to be hands-on, get away from the computer, tear it up type options for them.
And we also looked at, when we were building this, we looked at I think it's called the Oaks something.
Yes, the national curriculum for the UK that's online.
National curriculum, and it's government funded and it's government provided. And I was quite kind of, gosh, what is it going to be amazing, because it's basically the whole curriculum online, and it's one video per topic, I think, and it's hit and miss as to what it is and what the quality is, and whether it's kind of PowerPoint slides and some talking.
Nothing hands-on that we saw.
There's nothing hands-on. It's so one-dimensional. And it's there, it's basic, but that feels like what we've said. The bar is set at the basic lowest level, and what we're trying to do is raise the bar. But I wanted to come back for the both of you to we talked about the impact of Beyond School on your kids and your family, but about the impact on you two as adults, because we do have a whole adult learning platform, and it's also created for adults, and we've got a whole kind of curriculum, if you like, of stuff that adults can learn and for their own development and growth, personally and professionally.
You want to go first, Carrie?
Sure, I will jump in. I have also taken Sharon's anti-racism course, and that has been mind-blowing for me, not only just as an adult in my interactions with other adults, but also in raising my kids, right? I've got 4 kids that will hopefully someday be, involved in their community, and I'm hoping that I can start while they're little and make an impact on their view of society and their view of others and how they treat others. So that has been amazing. I have learned a lot from Jenny on self-direction and, not only just letting go of my own insecurities as a parent, but also encouraging my own kids to thrive during the season and to remind them how strong they are and how proud I am of all their learning and all that they're navigating this year, despite the fact that they're not learning in the way that they were most comfortable, right? This is all new to us. I have also been looking at some of Owena's things and learning more about matrescence, even though I feel like I'm an older mom, quote unquote, at this point. But, we're all moms, and it's still a process that I'm learning. I have learned from Lucy and her, psychoanalytic background. I've also learned from Tayard. In fact, the kids and I made short rib stew this last weekend, and we now have rhythm bones sitting in my pantry. So the boys are ready this weekend to do some drumming. So wait for that video. It's gonna go. So honestly, I think that has been my favorite part about participating in Beyond School, because before COVID hit, we would sit down to dinner and our whole life was so busy, right? And everybody, it was almost comical. I sometimes wanted to just film it, because anybody who had not yet had kids, I think it would have served as contraception for them, because it was everybody screaming, food flying, people at the table after 3 minutes. It was crazy. And I love that. I'm one of 4 kids. I'm used to that, but it was not really an enjoyable dinner conversation. And that was something that was always kind of in my back of my mind. I want us to be able to enjoy each other. And this is family meals have always been something that's really important to me. So we have scheduled our whole life since we first had kids around having a family meal once a day, because that is really key. I mean, when my kids were really little and my husband didn't get home till 8, I would feed them a snack and make them stay up so that we could all have dinner with daddy. So that's really important. But we still were lacking in that conversation. And it kind of felt like we were getting to the point where my youngest was almost 5. We should be able to have a family conversation at this point, right? Everyone can talk. But Beyond School has helped provide that with us, because we're all learning together. And I mean, I can just tell you, in the last month, we've been reading about Augustus Caesar, and the conversations we have around dinner now are amazing. I mean, mind blowing. We've been discussing religion. We've been discussing racism. We've been discussing slavery. We've been discussing women. I mean, even my 5-year-old chimes in, that he's really impressed by the swords that they would have used at that time. And he taught his sister what a hilt is, because she didn't know. So, we're just we're learning together, and we're able to enjoy each other so much more, because we're now all on the same page. And that, I think, was kind of the missing piece for us before we had Beyond School, because like I said, I mean, we love our public school, we love our teachers, and they have done an amazing job, but this is not something that they ever could have planned for and are not really trained to do, right? So now all the different teachers are taking their own approach on how they're dealing with the situation. And so we have a whole range of different learning things happening for my 4 kids across the spectrum from kindergarten to middle school. So it doesn't look like it did in the fall, where everybody was in school at the same time and everybody was learning kind of a similar curriculum, or last fall. Now it's just kind of a bunch of different things, right? So Beyond School has provided that continuity and that safe similarity that my kids really, really need right now. And it really has been life-changing for us.
There's a huge part that you've missed.
What?
Which is you professionally and your, you know, your life as a kind of a whole person, not just a mother.
Okay, that's a whole nother, yeah. So me professionally. So my story, we can back up that 10 years. When we had our first daughter, we had just recently moved to the Bay Area. My husband was commuting over an hour, at that point, close to 2 hours into San Francisco to work. And I was commuting back up to San Francisco, where I was research faculty at UC Davis. And we left our daughter here. We didn't have family in the area, and we just felt like we didn't want her on the road all the time. And it was honestly the worst year of my life. I spent so many days crying. I got to the point where I couldn't sleep because I was so anxious all the time. I would literally drive for an hour and a half, set my foot in the door, and the daycare would call me and tell me my daughter was sick. And so one day I was on the freeway, and literally the freeway had melted because it was so hot in the summer in Sacramento. It had given out. So as I went on a detour, it took me 3 hours to get home, and I ended up having to pay $1 a minute for my daughter in daycare. And while I was on the freeway, I called the advice nurse and just like wept to her and said, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's too much. I hate this. And she was the first one to say, like, just leave. Like, why are you like, figure it out. People can figure it out. You guys can figure it out. If this is really what you want to be right now, is home with your kids, then make it work. So my husband and I had a conversation, and, you know, again, it was not our intention for me to leave work. So it was not an easy conversation, but ultimately I decided to leave and told everybody that I worked with I was leaving. And almost everyone came back to me and said that I was throwing my life away and I would regret the decision and not be happy. So fast forward 10 years and COVID and my kids getting a little older, and I just felt really called. I had kind of been toying with the idea of starting my own business, and Beyond School has, again, like helped me make that leap and teach me how to juggle my kids. You know, I am busier now with my kids than I was before COVID, but we're all happier and I really have more time to myself. My business is thriving. In fact, I just had a doctor's appointment this morning, and as I was checking in with the nurse, I ended up getting her hooked up on my Instagram account because she was excited about what I do. So Beyond School has helped foster that in me and has helped me grow and help encourage me. And, you know, I can't tell you how exciting this is. Last week, I gave a talk to teenage girls about nutrition and about body image. And after that, my daughter sat through the talk with me. She said, you know what, Mom, you really know a lot. And I really love how you can share that with other people my own age. And I'm so proud of you. And that, to me, like, that was really special because I feel like I have spent so much of my life being just a mom, which was okay. That was by my choice. And I know that doesn't work for every family, but I was really happy to be a mom. But there's more to me. And I have kind of kept that hidden from my kids. And because of Beyond School this last year, we've all been part of starting my business. And now my kids are super excited. I mean, they run my website. They do videos with me all the time. Like, my kids are my business. And we've created that together. And thanks to you, Leah, and helping me set up like a values-based business and what my values are. My family was one of my key values, and they are absolutely included in that business. And I've had several people tell me how neat that is, that we can create a business as a family. So thank you.
Well, now I'm crying.
For those who don't know, who are new, if you're watching and you are new, Carrie is also one of the teachers at Beyond School. So she is teaching for us as well. So she started off as with her kids as student. She is a student, but she is also teaching. So she's our cooking and nutrition expert for kids and adults.
Yeah. Boy, Annette, that's
you always have to draw that out of me, Leah.
If you're not going to say it, I will. It's like full circle.
Thank you.
No, I think it's, you know, it's awesome. And it's very, you know, the values-based business is exactly why we originally decided to homeschool, is because, you know, I got burnt out in academia. I was a professor of OBGYN and pediatrics, and had my second son, and I literally was only seeing him when I would nurse him in the morning and nurse him before bed. And my husband was a stay-at-home dad, which was awesome. And we had already had planned that because I was the one that was really career driven. And so, I figured dad was best to be able to be home with them. And so that was great. But I, as a mom, was like not having any time with my kids. And so anyway, then we started our snack food company, and I decided to leave academia, and start slinging chocolate. But we, in our factory, we had built a room for the kids to play. And, but again, it was like, that values-based, family-centered business. I mean, everything we did was around our kids being at the center of growing our business. And now, we sold the business, and then I've done consulting with women entrepreneurs and other specialty food entrepreneurs. But it's awesome to hear my kids they're so excited and so proud of me as a mom, and just like, look at all this stuff you've done, mom. Like, you have this doctorate, but then you've also created a successful food company. And because we're always learning with them, and we also have shown them you do not have to be on the same trajectory for your entire life. I said every decade I've done something different, and so, now, I really am helping businesses with their strategic growth plans, and, and doing, a lot of marketing and social media stuff. And so the cool thing for them to see is that I'm always learning. My husband is always learning. And so that whole concept of what Beyond School is about is, the lifelong learning. You don't just stop learning once you are out of high school or out of college or out of graduate school. It's like, we're always learning. And my interests have totally changed. When I took up knitting, I dove into knitting as a hobby, and so, with the offerings that Beyond School has for the adult, and I even think like some of the adult stuff for like the high school age, they could totally get into those topics as well, because they're as Jen says, adulting,
It's a whole nother soapbox for us both, Annette. Like, don't limit your teenagers, man. Give them the keys to the kingdom.
Exactly. And so I just think, and again, like you said, Carrie, that, just conversations of learning together, watching movies on, the Middle Ages together, and then reading a really good book together about that, it allows, it's a platform that allows us to learn together, because I don't remember a lot of history, and I don't remember, and so now, I'm totally into World War II, and so then reading my own books, like before bed, my own books on women in World War II, but then they're reading something else. So it just offers us just this, entire learning environment where, again, like, we're the same way for dinner time. We have never missed a family dinner, and like maybe one person's away at a sleepover, but otherwise, like, that is our core meal that, we faithfully do every day. And it's really important. And the conversations we have, I said to my husband the other day, I was like, maybe we should listen to a podcast during dinner, or read, listen to an audiobook. He's like, but that's when we have the best conversations. We should do that after dinner. We can't do that during dinner, and a lot of personal stuff for them comes up during dinner as well. And so it's a really open time, so yeah, so, I feel like I haven't taken advantage yet of as many of the parent learning blocks that you have, but I totally am looking forward to that. And again, they're so diverse, there's financial and money, and there's the emotional stuff, and there's the nutrition stuff. And so again, every aspect of our lives, there's something to tap into to learn more about. So
yeah. Leah, are you ready?
I am going to.
I've had like the Wizard of Oz thing in my mind. Pay no attention to the little man behind the curtain.
I'm going to try.
So we don't have a little man behind our curtain.
Let me just. Oh, hang on. Good. Okay, I am going to. So, yes, let's try this.
Oh, you got it.
Have I got it? Right. So this
Yeah, that's great.
the curtain. This is what the learning platform looks like. So when you log in, we have separate logins for adults and kids because we are very careful. We don't obviously want kids to be looking at any of the adult. When I say adult content, it
Yeah, we should clarify. Adult content means content about interesting stuff that we have made for adults, not adult content.
So yeah, so the reason what we have worked hard to do is also give your kids their own accounts so that when you are a parent on the platform, there's a parent dashboard which will show you underneath that. So you can see what your kids are doing on the platform. You can, I've only got one of my children registered to me at the moment, but you can see which learning blocks, which subjects, whether they've taken any quizzes, how they've scored on the quizzes, what certificates they've achieved. So we have the facility for you as a parent to just keep an eye on your kids and what they're doing if you're letting them kind of log in by themselves. If we go to the adult blocks, these are the subjects at the moment, and we are building, Jen and our team of builders are literally building blocks almost daily. So we are adding blocks all the time, and we probably will be, Jen said, for at least another year.
Oh, like for at least another forever. There's so many things to learn.
So, and one of the things I think that I appreciate, so if we go to, you talked about the Arab golden age. So this is the block that Jen has built. And one of the things that I appreciate as a parent is knowing that someone like Jen, who is a super experienced educator, former teacher, the same as we've got two people working with us at the moment to help build blocks, and they have got amazing backgrounds in education. And they curate and sometimes curate the content and curate the learning resources, and they check them out. And so I know I can be really confident that when my kids go in and look at a learning block, it's going to be good stuff, and it's, it's going to be engaging and enriching, and it's as safe as we can get it in terms of the, they can't wander off and look at something else, and that it's just, it's going to keep them busy, it's going to keep them occupied and interested. So you can see, seen this until now. It's full. Yeah, it looks amazing.
I can just chime in, Leah.
I was building it and said I can't stop. Just so we've got, so these are the activities. So there's a whole wealth of videos and things to watch. We have in many of them, I think Jen, you've kind of got stories that are read out as well. So my youngest doesn't read yet, and it's
yeah, keep going. They're at the bottom.
On his own, and he can read a little bit, but he will read when he's ready, but he can come on still and still get value from this, and he can listen to the videos, and he can listen to some of the books that are read out. Obviously he needs help doing some of the activities, but we've got a whole world as I scroll down. I'm not sure when it finishes. There we go. And then there's a quiz. So this is the interactive bit, and we're building at the moment, I'm building the certificate. So when kids have taken a certain number of blocks in a certain subject, they'll get a certificate which will also be on the parent dashboard, and they can print out and display if they want to. So that's something that Jen's created and curated. We've got, just going to look at this one, which is Sharon. So this is the anti-racism for adults. We've got one for kids as well. And again, we've got teachers who have, we're encouraging the teachers to basically use their expertise and create the kind of learning experience and learning block that they want to. So they know their subject best. Sharon's our anti-racism expert. She has created this subject topic based upon the workshop that we've done, actually, which is, we'll get really, both Annette and Carrie have taken it. So we've got different activities. I'm going to look at Jenny's self-directed learning. So this has got 12 blocks. The thing I really love about Jenny's is that there's challenges, and then there's journal prompts, which I think is a really nice bit of content. And then we've got other resources to dig deeper. And then we've got one of Tayar's, which is rhythm and groove music. Ham bone. Shall I play a video?
Yeah, play a little bit of that one. That's fun. Like pull towards the middle though, if you can.
For a walk. In fact, take yourself out for a walk just for this. This is where the emphasis lands. Left hand independence. When you play the piano, you might have sometimes enough for the whole darn crew. Let's move on to how do you do. First, you're going to put your left hand out as though you're to shake someone's hand. How do you do? Then you take your right hand and you're going to slap it. Then you slide that right hand off to land on your right leg. Then you will drop your left hand down to land on your left leg. And that will look like this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All following one another. Each beat is the same length, like the sound of a stopwatch. Tick, 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 tick.
I'm going to stop it. I can see us all mesmerized. It's mesmerizing. My kids love Tails stuff. They absolutely love it. It's body percussion and spoons and kind of homemade didgeridoos, and they absolutely love it. So he's just amazing. I think that's it.
The other thing that's important about that is the ways in which that kind of music and the cross hatching and body percussion impacts brain development. We know that helps kids with math. So why would they not be playing and having a good time and also developing their math brain?
Yeah, totally. So you can see this is, you can't see this unless you're logged in. And we've then got the drop-in sessions. So we have got our teachers who have weekly-ish drop-in sessions. So you can come and take a learning block. If you want to come and practice your Spanish with Carlos, he will have a drop-in session most weeks. If you want to talk about self-direction and get questions answered from Jenny, she will too. You can come and do some moving with Taya. We've got all sorts of drop-in sessions for pretty much all the topics and subjects we've got in at the moment. So this is what's here. We are building blocks every single day. We are adding functionalities. So we'll be adding things like messaging. You can message us for support. We will be adding portfolio building. So we provide templates for you to. It's a bit like a show and tell. It's instead of a kind of kid CV. So instead of saying, you can do these quizzes, you can get these certificates, but we also were really encouraging you to display and show the things that you've created. So if you've done some kind of artwork, or you've done something to do with creative writing, or you've self-directed your own team mentoring project, or whatever it is, we are giving you templates and the support to create that and show that, so that you can say, look, this is what I've done. We're hoping to encourage people to submit their work so that we can self-publish books of poetry and creative writing. We would love to do things like music performances and music shows, have online art galleries. So all sorts of different ways that, I suppose adults as well, but kids and adults can show and look at what they've done and kind of show what they've done and be really proud of it.
Can I talk about that for just a second, Leah? Because I think that gets even more important depending on where you are, particularly in the United States. State by state, there are requirements. And in some states, it's no big deal. You can do whatever you want. Nobody keeps track, which feels a little weird to me as a parent. Also easy, which is great. Congratulations if you live in one of those states. But in other states, they do require some forms of assessment. And portfolio-driven assessment is maybe the best way to demonstrate what a child knows. Standardized tests, which are an option in some states, which are mandatory in others, tend to be, they can be for lots of kids and for lots of reasons really problematic. Portfolio-driven assessment is key. And the key part of it is the self-reflection. They learn how to think about how to show growth, what's important to them. Where did I start? Where did I end? Where do I want to chart my path? And there's a piece of that beyond just showing, oh, I can write this, or I can do this. It allows them to think through kind of who they are, where they are, and where they're going. And that in and of itself is a learning experience and a skill. So baking that in gives them agency, gives them autonomy, also teaches them a really important skill that they need for the rest of their life. Like you think about biannual reviews in most companies, they're nothing but a self-reflection exercise. It's a portfolio development exercise every time. Why aren't kids taught that in schools? This is one of those real world skills that translates to every other area of their life. We have a question that Deb Urbeta sent in. She said, I'm interested in content for my older son, Levi. He's an ASD kid with severe anxiety. He's interested but worried about having to engage with others, and I want to gently guide him towards some interaction. Do you think he would be a good fit? So Deb, two things. One is we have an ASD specialist on the adult side who's creating things for families who are affected by autism. So I would highly recommend that you get in there and dig into what Amy Phipps is putting out, because it's really good. And then on the flip side, yes, like this kind of learning is so great for kids who learn differently in any capacity, because it allows them to pick and choose according to their learning style, according to their interests. The portfolio development can be a really great piece for kids who learn differently, because it allows them to show what's important to them, which often gets glossed over in traditional education. So I would invite you to book a call with me. I saw Lucy already put that little note. Yeah, book a call with Jen. Definitely, like, let's talk. I know, we talked about your other son and got connected with Montana Hybrid Academy, which is the micro school that we're supporting. And I've heard that that's going really well, and I'm glad for him. That's a great fit. If we can help your older son through a more self-directed approach, we'd be happy to do that. The other thing that we have that would be super for you would be the 12-week series that Jenny Manas has put together on self-directed learning, because particularly for kids who are not neurotypical, who learn and experience the world in different ways, self-direction can be a really powerful tool, because they march to their own drum anyway. So why not celebrate that and help them to find the beat for them? We'd love to chat about that.
I'm just going to circle back to, you were talking about kind of requirements for home education and homeschooling in the States. In the
Right.
Different, and we don't have to, there is no legal requirement normally to provide any kind of proof that we are doing anything.
Wow.
The government or the kind of county councils or city councils do often have, I think it differs for counties, but they do often have I think they call it elective education department, which is normally a team of 2 or 3 people, and it's their job to contact people who register or who deregistered from school and register as home educated. And we have the option to have a meeting with people, but we don't have to legally take that, and we don't have to legally submit anything. But if they contact you, which they sometimes do, and they often scare people new to home education that they feel they have to tick all sorts of boxes and prove all sorts of things, we don't legally have to, but if they do ask us, it's sensible to cooperate in some way, shape or form. But what we're providing at Beyond School, so I've literally just had a letter today, I think, from my county council asking for proof of what I'm doing and the education that I'm providing for my kids. I'm just going to send them the website, and I'm going to say, they're doing these subjects and these topics, and if they really need quizzes and certificates, this is it. So it's for people in the UK, this is a really easy way of being able to say this is what they're doing, and we can print stuff out if needed, but it's here, you can see it.
Yeah, well, and the reason I would just encourage parents, the reason to keep records like this and to build portfolios like this is not because you're afraid of the state coming to get you. Like, it's easy enough to demonstrate what you're doing with your kids, and if you ever got a phone call and needed help, let us know. We can walk you through that process of how to justify outside the box learning for your kids. I've got 25 years of experience in that, and Annette has a good 17, 18 years of experience in that. We've got our kids into college. Clearly, we can help you figure out how to do that. But the reason we do it is that also is a learning process that's important for them. And portfolio development is fun. And it's kind of like keeping that baby book that we all did a great job with on our first kid and not so much by the 4th kid. It's like they get to show their growth, and that's fun.
Think about, we call it the real world, but think about our world and the world of adults. How do we get a job? How do we show that we are competent and capable of doing the job that we want to go for? It's effectively it's a CV. It's a portfolio of our experience that we've built. So getting them doing it from 5, 6, 7 is just a lifelong thing that they're going to need to do anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's about whole child education, which is what we're trying to communicate. So if you are with us, I recognize that we're getting on in time, and I want to be respectful of people's time. If you have, if you've jumped in at the end and you missed the part where Leah showed behind the curtain and showed the learning plaque, go back, listen again. We're also going to drop free samples in the comments, because if you started with us, I noticed a couple of the people that joined us started with us kind of when Carrie did in July, August. It was a very different thing. The learning blocks that we have now are completely different from what we were helping people do when we were in firefighting emergency phase at the beginning of the pandemic education crisis. So do check out those learning blocks. Just let your kids play with them and then ask them what they think. If they're, if they've got ideas for us, we would love to have that. One of the really fun things in the last sort of month has been every new kid that has joined Beyond School, I've built something specific for them. We've asked every kid, what do you want to learn? And then we've built them their thing, which feels really like that's not going to last forever. When we have 1,000 kids a week joining, that's not going to be a thing. But people who are getting in, like their kids are engaged, they're interested. Here's the thing I most wanted to learn and it's here for me. Let us know what your kids love and we'll make that thing for them and help to get them engaged and feeling powered and empowered in their learning process. And send us feedback if there are things that you think aren't working that we can do better, more of, or differently. We want to know that too. And personally, I just invite you to connect, set up a 30-minute call with me. I will stick my calendar link bravely in the comments and book yourself a 30-minute. Let's talk about what's going on with your kid and whether or not Beyond School might be a good fit. Carrie said, her kids have been in school this whole year. And Beyond School has been the thing that has sort of, no matter what the school district is doing, it's been the solid thing that's carried them through. And her pediatrician has noticed the difference. And, Annette, who's always been self-directed learning and great at facilitating that for her kids, has found a lot of the extra things, the different things that we offer to be in addition to what she's doing. So we feel like there's something there for everyone. We'd love to invite you guys to try it out. Thank you so much for joining us. Do any of you have anything you want to add right at the end?
Yeah, I just want to say also that the new platform, how it is now, is that the kids and ourselves can learn on our time, so if it's not, I can't get to it until 10 o'clock at night, when I'm finally, on the couch, then I can do it then. Or if my kids want to ski in the morning and then in the afternoon, they can get on. So it's not because you're moving away from the live classes. And then this platform now is learn when you want, where you want, how you want. And so you totally have autonomy. The learner has autonomy over their own lives and their own learning and their own schedule. So that I think is really cool.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks everybody for being here. And let me know if there's a way I can help. We will be back here next Sunday. So if this has been helpful to you, if there are other people that you would love to have a chat with us, feel free to come back next Sunday. We will keep going. If you have questions in the meantime, send them. We'll answer them. Thanks for being here.